Winners break ceilings. Do you guys agree? And I'm assuming that you came here today to learn how to win because you know that winners break ceilings. I'm sure some of you, every time I hear those numbers, I want to pinch myself because the reality is that I get to stand up here today, but I'm actually representing 300 remarkable humans that call EmpowerHome their team family. And they're the ones that every day are doing the work in terms of meeting with buyers and sellers. So you see and hear those amazing numbers that I want to pinch myself when I hear, right? And you are thinking, can I do it too, right? Does anyone relate to that? You want to know how to do it too, right? So you see a story of winning. But the truth is that winning is actually a byproduct of first, the feeling of fear, and second, the decision to have courage in spite of the fear. And so today, I'm going to share with you the EmpowerHome story, really the Sarah Reynolds story as well, in terms of the story of courage. Courage of what, right? Courage to create a better way. Courage to put clients first. Clients first above what? Clients first above our industry. What? Clients first above what the industry says that we should do, and the courage to actually be disliked. And then I'm going to share the ultimate courage, which has led to the massive growth that EmpowerHome has had over the last 2 decades. So as he said, I'm Sarah Reynolds, and I'm honored to be here today to share with you and to truly inspire you that just like I chose to have courage, you can too. And through having courage, you end up serving more families, and through serving more families, you end up being the difference in their lives. Because if you think about it, remember the early days of getting your real estate license? Maybe some of you here are brand new, and so you remember them maybe more than me, which was like 2 decades ago. But remember the excitement, remember the nervousness, remember the reason why you got your license to begin with? So for me, it started in 2006. I became my mom's buyer's agent. I was excited. It was me, her, and an assistant at the time. It was a team of 3. And in 2009, I said to myself, I like the real estate industry, but I'm not super fulfilled. And I sat her down and I said, I'm thinking about going back into the business world, the real business world. In 2009, she actually asked me, instead of stepping away, why don't we build something bigger together? But to do that, you're actually going to have to lead. She had the vision that we could accomplish more. She had the entrepreneurial spirit that we could serve more families. She could see that we could serve communities even greater than at the time, Northern Virginia. So the first thing I did, so I went to college for business. And I thought I was going to leave the real estate industry to go into more of the business world, right? But then I started realizing, wait a second, I have the opportunity to create a massive business within the real estate world. But I have to look at it like a business student, like a business leader, okay? And so what I did was I did my own case study. Who here has ever done a case study before? Okay, so in business school, they did these in every class, okay? They had these case studies, which are really just a story with questions, right? So they would tell a story about a failure that a business had, or they would tell a story about a success that a business had, and then they would ask you questions, right? What did the leaders do well? What didn't they do well, right? You would answer the questions. So I did my own case study. So as I did my own case study, I started seeing these shocking industry stats. And the crazy thing is this was almost 15 years ago. And these stats still reign true today. So what are our shocking industry stats? We heard some of them this morning. The first is that last year, there were over 2 million licensed real estate agents. So Gary shared the numbers for realtors, but do you guys know that not everyone with a real estate license is actually a realtor, right? So there's over 2 million humans in America that hold a real estate license. Okay? And then last year, right over 4 million homes sold. Everyone with me so far? So 4 million homes sold, 2 million Americans hold a real estate license. So if you do some really quick math, the average agent that holds a real estate license served 2 families a year. That's shocking, right? Shocking. Okay, and we know that serving 2 families a year, once you have all of the expenses to be in this industry, right, to be able to serve those families, I mean, it's an industry that is basically borderline poverty level in terms of income. Those are the shocking industry stats. So I looked at it and I was like, wait a second. So we're failing the real estate licensee, only serving 2 families a year. We're failing them. Well, how are we doing with clients? That year, NAR had done a study. And in the study, they asked buyers and sellers how likely they would be to work with the same agent again. In that year, 78% of buyers and sellers said that they would not work with the same agent again. And I thought there had to be a better way. So I started asking myself the question, why? I started doing the case study. What's going on in the real estate industry to cause us to fail the real estate licensee and then ultimately fail the clients that we serve? And then I started thinking about all of the agents that I started meeting in the office. So I'd been a licensed agent then about 3-4 years. And you guys know, right? These new agents, they come in the office, they're super excited. They come to every class, right? They're banging on your door like, please, can I hold an open house for one of your listings this weekend? Right? And you see them excited to grow, excited to make an impact. And then 3-4 months later, you stop seeing them as much. They stop knocking on the door. A few months later, you forget you even met them because you don't see them again. Because the truth is that depending on the year, there's an 80 to 95% failure rate for all new licensees. What does that mean? That means that the agents that got licensed this month, in 3 to 5 years, only 5 to 20% of them will still be licensed. So I did this case study and I thought, and I started thinking about all of those agents that I got to meet, all of those agents that came in the business. And when I would meet them, all I saw was an amazing heart. Like our industry has heart. Don't you agree? Right? Typically, when someone gets their real estate license, they have a desire to serve buyers and sellers. They have a desire to help changing communities. They want to help people build massive amounts of wealth. Their heart, their desire, they're entrepreneurs. They want to serve their community. They have the right intention to serve, but yet they don't know how to do it. And when they learn how to do it, they realize this actually isn't the business I thought it was, because only 5% of my time is spent doing what I got my license to do, which is to serve buyers and sellers. So my first story of courage was that moment when I was looking at these stats and I said, I think we can create a better way. But you know that feeling that you have when like you think you're onto something, but what happens next? The fear creeps in, right? You start getting really afraid, like, do I really have the ability to do it? That day, I chose courage, and I went on a journey to build the #1 lead generation machine with an ISA department, the top ISA department in all of America. I chose courage above the fear, and I chose the courage to create a better way. That's the first part of breaking through the ceiling. To being viewed as a winner is to choose courage to create a better way when you see that there needs to be a better way. Well, the second piece was I needed to serve more buyers and sellers to fuel this ISA department, right? I had amazing inside sales agents that wanted to be on the phone. They wanted to talk to buyers and sellers that raised their hand saying that they needed us. And so I started thinking about what are today's clients' problems? What are they struggling with? Every week I started doing this process where I would literally obsess over today's buyers and sellers. I would ask myself one important question, which I still ask myself this every week today, is when today's sellers put their head on their pillow at night, what is keeping them up? So I started asking myself, okay, what's keeping them up? And through asking that question, I thought we can create solutions, we can create programs that solve today's sellers' problems. So we created our first ever, what's now called a MOFR, okay? I called it a program back then, okay, which was your home sold in 79 days or we'll sell it for free. And I was excited because at the time, the average days on market was over 100 days on market. So selling it for free and being able to put ourselves out there, right? That was exciting to be able to do. And guess what happened? Sellers started calling because we were solving their problem. We were solving their fear. Sellers started calling. More signs started going in the ground. What used to be a $300,000 in revenue business quickly grew to over $3 million, over $4 million, over $5 million in revenue. And we were serving more and more buyers and sellers each and every day. But then something else happened that I didn't expect. And that's our industry, my competitors didn't like that I was serving more buyers and sellers. So they started saying things. They started talking about Sarah and her team and Debbie, they're disruptors. And I had a choice to make when that started happening. I'll never forget this whole thread in one of our local agent Facebook groups. And they didn't want to say our name, but they said the two sisters on the sign, because that's what me and my mom are known for, the two sisters on the sign, okay? And they literally said, I hope they die. This was posted on social media, a fellow realtor. So I had a choice to make that day, and you have a choice to make. When you learn to solve more buyers and sellers' problems, people don't like it. They don't like you. They label you disruptor. Disruptor is a sexy way to say you're disliked. You're causing problems. You're changing things. And I had a choice to make, to give in to the desire to be liked. And believe me, guys, I have it. To give in to that desire, or to choose to put clients first because they needed me over the industry hating us winning and helping more clients. I chose to put clients first. Now, the third part of the journey has been the hardest, and it's a continuation, which is a continuation for you too. So as more buyers and sellers started calling us, as we became the first team in DC Metro to ever serve 500 families a year, the first team in DC Metro to ever serve 1,000 families a year, more and more buyers and sellers saying, I need your help. You're solving my problem. I need your help. Well, I needed to grow a team. I need to surround myself with other agents that wanted to serve buyers and sellers as much as we did. And that's where my leadership journey began. And a leadership journey is one of failure after failure after failure. You see, it's one thing to know that you're going to be a leader. And I knew it at a very young age. My dad said to me one day, he sat me down, I was 14 years old, and I was being a little bit disrespectful at the time. I was in a phase. He sat me down, and he looked at me, he said, Sarah, you're gonna lead people. I'm not sure if it's to heaven or hell yet, but you're gonna lead people. It's one thing to know that you're going to lead or have a desire to lead. It's another thing to actually lead. And I'm not talking about the ideal in the books. I've read them all. I love leadership books and I love learning from them. But there's the ideal and there's the real deal. And the real deal about leading people, growing a team, is that you actually fail publicly. When you're on your own and you make a mistake with that client, right? Not many people know. But when you, like me, make a decision to promote someone and publicly announce it to the team without telling the other people that applied for the position that they didn't get it because you didn't have time, and then they leave because they don't feel seen or heard, guess what? Everyone sees it. When we talk about breaking through ceilings, it's actually breaking through ceilings of courage to keep going in spite of failure. The only reason why our team is number one in Keller Williams, and I don't say that to brag, I say that to inspire, but the only reason is that we fail more every single day. And when we fail, we have a choice. We have a choice. You have a choice. You have a choice to lean into courage and choose to keep going in spite of the failure or to give up. Winners break ceilings. And today I'm sharing my journey, but it's actually about your journey. So I'm going to ask you for a moment, where in your life, where in your business do you need to decide to have courage to create something better? Where in your business, where in your life do you need to have the courage, make the decision to have courage to serve more families in spite of the potential fear of being disliked, of being called a disruptor? And where in your life and business do you need to have the courage to lean into failure, to lean into one of the greatest callings a human could ever have, which is to lead and support another human being reaching their goals? Today, I share my story to inspire you to make the decision to lean into courage.